The movie opens with a woman giving a lecture on serial killers to a packed auditorium. She asks all white males between the ages of 20 and 35 to stand up, then points out a chilling fact. 9 out of 10 serial killers fit this exact profile, ordinary-looking men who blend in with everyone else. She goes on to explain that, at any given moment, there could be around 35 active serial killers in the country, all out there scouting for their next victim. She then focuses on one man in the audience who runs his finger across his throat, as if gesturing to her. But in a split second, she realizes it was only her imagination, leaving her shaken and flustered. She quickly wraps up her lecture, urging the government to provide better funding to study serial killers. In the next scene, she heads to the restroom. As she carefully lays tissue on the toilet seat, she's suddenly ambushed by an assailant who slips a noose around her neck and hoists her above the stall. While she struggles for her life, a police guard enters the restroom searching for the attacker. But before he realizes what's happening, the assailant sneaks up behind him, pressing a knife to his throat and a gun to his head. In one brutal motion, the guard's throat is slit, and the screen cuts to black, revealing the movie's title, Copycat. In the next scene, set 13 months after the incident, we see the same woman waking up in a deep sweat, gasping for air as she suffers a panic attack. She wanders around her house, calling out the name Andy. In desperation, she turns to her computer and types, "Anyone awake, need to talk." It's clear she's part of an online support group for survivors. We then cut to 2 agents, Ruben and MJ, moving cautiously through a dark room with their guns drawn. The atmosphere is tense, until both suddenly open fire, only for it to be revealed as a training simulation. Soon after, the agents arrive at a real crime scene, cordoned off from the public. Reporters swarm outside, desperate for a statement, but the agents remain silent. Inside, MJ carefully surveys the scene, searching for clues. She walks through the house and into the bathroom, where she discovers the victim, a woman strangled to death, lying lifeless in the bathtub. Another officer informs her that a stocking had been found wrapped around the woman's neck. Meanwhile, on TV, a reporter connects this case to 2 previous murders. But MJ's boss quickly shuts down any talk of a serial killer, making it clear he doesn't want a media frenzy. We then see the same woman from earlier, struggling just to grab a newspaper without stepping beyond the safety of her own home. She's clearly traumatized. Meanwhile, at the station, MJ receives a phone call. It's the same woman, trying to share clues about the murders. But MJ and the other officers don't take her seriously and dismiss her. Later, MJ is watching a TV interview of that same woman, not realizing she was the caller with the information. Finally, it's revealed on screen that her name is Dr. Helen Hudson. MJ and Ruben soon track the call back and visit Dr. Hudson at her home. There, Helen tells them her theory. All 3 murders were committed by the same person, meaning there's a serial killer at large, and he's going to strike again. At first, she suspects her former attacker, Daryl Lee Cullum, may have somehow gotten out of prison. MJ asks Helen to join the investigation and help them catch the killer, but Helen refuses. She explains that she's retired, recovering from a nervous breakdown, and no longer capable of fieldwork. When MJ shows her the crime scene photos, Helen spirals into another panic attack, hyperventilating until her assistant, Andy, rushes in with a paper bag to calm her. Andy explains that this is common for her. Helen hyperventilates until she passes out, then her breathing resets. We also learn she suffers from agoraphobia, a condition that makes her terrified of leaving the house or being alone, which is why she hasn't stepped outside in a long time. Once she recovers from her panic attack, Dr. Hudson decides to go through the photos and documents from the crime scene left behind by the agents. The images are disturbing, even for her. Then, we're shown a chilling camera perspective. Someone is secretly watching her through her apartment window from across the street. But their identity is never revealed. After carefully reviewing the files, Dr. Hudson calls the agents back to discuss the murders. Using her years of expertise, she gives them a full breakdown of the killer's personality. She explains that the murderer is an intelligent white male, between 20 and 30 years old, socially functional, and with a particular obsession for golden oldies. "What do you mean, golden oldies?" Ruben asks. Holding up a photo, Dr. Hudson replies, "Where's the stocking from this one?" MJ, confused, asks how she knew about the stocking. That's when Helen drops the revelation. The killer is a copycat of the Boston Strangler, a serial killer who's been dead for over 20 years. We then cut to a video clip of a girl dancing at a music festival. For a brief moment, we catch a glimpse of the killer working on his computer, wearing sunglasses, but with most of his face hidden. In the next scene, Dr. Hudson is seen playing an online chess game when she suddenly receives an email. She opens it, only to be horrified by what she sees. The image of the bathtub victim comes to life, morphing into the girl dancing at the music festival. Stunned and frozen, Helen realizes this is the killer's way of taunting her. She immediately meets with MJ and Ruben, warning them that the girl from the music festival will be the next victim. But when they try to replay the file, it self-destructs, booby trapped to erase itself. Shaken and terrified to stay alone, Dr. Hudson confesses her paranoia. To reassure her, Ruben decides to stay back at her apartment until she feels safe. We are then introduced to Peter, an unassuming white male in his 30s, seemingly ordinary. He descends to his basement and unlocks a door, revealing a chilling collection, images of his victims, along with the tools he uses to commit his crimes. Among the horrific evidence, we see one of his victims lying on a table, bound at the hands and feet, with a plastic bag over her head. The next day, MJ is at another crime scene. Alongside Ruben, she investigates the victim and quickly realizes this case does not match the pattern of their serial killer. MJ calls Dr. Hudson to report the details, emphasizing that this new case is different. She also mentions that 2 sets of sperm were found on the victim. This triggers something in Dr. Hudson, who immediately begins researching on her computer. She uncovers a similar modus operandi used by 2 infamous killers from the past, Angelo Buono and Kenneth Bianchi, where the body was placed face down under a "no dumping allowed" sign. MJ confirms that the body from this morning was found in the exact same position, signaling that their killer has deliberately switched his style. Later, Dr. Hudson hears about another victim on the radio and quickly calls Ruben for details. She inquires about a woman shot in a car, seated in the passenger side with the music system on. She instructs him to play the music, suspecting it might be the Partridge Family, and indeed, it is. Dr. Hudson then asks Ruben to search for a nearby phone booth and look for a note. Ruben locates the note at the phone booth and brings it back to MJ, who carries it with him as he goes to check on Dr. Hudson. At the same time, the security guard outside Dr. Hudson's home goes missing, the phone line is cut, and the lights go out. Helen sees a shadowy figure inside her house. Terrified, she tries to leave but feels trapped. She moves cautiously through her home, picking up a knife from the kitchen in anticipation of a confrontation. Suddenly, she comes face to face with a man wearing a ski mask. Just as the tension peaks, Ruben arrives, and the masked intruder flees. MJ and Ruben then inform Dr. Hudson that the man who broke into her apartment is their serial killer. They fear that she may be the next target, but they don't know why. The next day, MJ shares the note that Ruben found at the phone booth. Helen's name appears prominently on it. She tries to decipher it for clues but is unable to find a connection at the moment. Later that night, as Helen settles into bed, she notices ants crawling on the sheets. Lifting them up, she discovers her entire bed is infested. As she pushes the mattress away in horror, she finds a book, with a human finger used as a bookmark. The book is autographed by Darrell Lee Cullum, her previous assailant. Helen is shocked. How could he have done this while in custody? MJ and Dr. Hudson immediately set up a web call with Darrell Cullum. They question him about the book and how it ended up in Helen's home. Cullum confesses that he's been in contact with a man named Peter, who promised to deliver the book. He also provides a time and location where Peter will meet a friend tonight. MJ immediately calls Ruben, hoping they can apprehend Peter at the meeting point before the situation escalates further. Back at the police station, Nico intentionally places a gun in a drawer in front of a criminal and deliberately leaves the drawer unlocked with the keys inside. The criminal seizes the opportunity, grabs the gun, and holds Ruben at gunpoint. MJ appears from the back and shoots the criminal in the shoulder, causing him to fall, but he still manages to grab his gun and shoot Ruben. Ruben is killed, leaving MJ devastated. While MJ informs Dr. Hudson about Ruben's death, Peter calls her on the phone. He plays one of her lecture recordings and then abruptly hangs up. The scene cuts to Peter at a bar, spiking a drink in preparation for his next victim. He hands the drink to Andy, Dr. Hudson's assistant, who is present at the bar. MJ traces the call to the bar, the Fun Factory, and calls for backup. She arrives too late. Peter already has a plastic bag over Andy's head. The next day, Andy's body is discovered floating in the harbor. Based on patterns from Peter's previous killings, Dr. Hudson and MJ deduce that his next attack will mimic Ted Bundy, who killed 3 girls in one night. They issue an alert to locate a yellow Beetle, the car Peter is likely using. A witness from the bar the previous night identifies Peter as the owner of such a car. Acting on this lead, a SWAT team raids Peter Foley's house. Inside, they find his wife murdered and left for dead. When they make their way to the basement, an explosion triggers a fire, engulfing the house. The police declare that they've caught their man and announce it to the media. Meanwhile, Peter appears at Dr. Hudson's home. He slashes the throat of her guard and rushes inside, assaulting her. He injects Dr. Hudson with a sedative, putting her to sleep. MJ arrives shortly after and finds the guard dead. She calls for backup and cautiously enters the house with her flashlight, gun drawn. Inside, she discovers a note that reads, "Press play." When she does, she sees Peter with Dr. Hudson unconscious in a chair. Peter holds a knife and threatens her, toying with MJ while daring her to find them. He warns her she must come alone if she wants to save Dr. Hudson. Dr. Hudson wakes up to find Peter recreating the exact scene from her previous attack at the start of the movie in the restroom. He even has her wearing the same red dress from that night a year and a half ago. As Peter begins to torture her, Dr. Hudson taunts him, calling him a sad little copycat and spits in his face. Agitated, Peter vows not to kill her quickly. MJ enters the building, triggering one of the alarms. She makes her way into the restroom and sees Dr. Hudson, as well as the guard on the floor. Dr. Hudson tries to gesture to MJ to check the next stall, but MJ fires 3 shots in the wrong stall. After checking every stall, she finally opens the last one and sees the guard. Suddenly, Peter, disguised as the guard, grabs MJ from behind by the neck. MJ fights desperately, breaking free, but Peter shoots at her relentlessly, showing no remorse. He attempts to place MJ on the floor like the guard. Meanwhile, Dr. Hudson, realizing Peter wants to witness her actions, tries to take her own life by letting go of her shoes. Peter panics, shooting the noose hook, causing her to fall to the floor. Seizing an opportunity, Dr. Hudson grabs a piece of glass and jabs it into Peter's leg. She scrambles to grab one of his tools and sprays his eyes with whatever she can find, finally breaking free. She runs up the stairs to the rooftop door but freezes, paralyzed by her agoraphobia. Peter climbs up behind her, leaving her no choice but to confront her fear. She forces herself onto the rooftop. Screaming for help, Dr. Hudson suddenly begins laughing as Peter approaches. Just as he is about to strike, MJ appears and shoots him. Peter turns, but MJ continues firing until he is dead. Dr. Hudson is finally safe, having faced her fears and survived the copycat's final attack. That's it guys, thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe to my channel, drop a comment on which movie you need me to recap and turn on notifications so you don't miss my next video.